that. Certainly. And before we even speak to you and talk about anything that you're interested in, it's imperative to know your name. What school you come from is always important so that we can kind of, organize the thoughts, and what class year you're even interested in as well. So eye contact, decent posture, coming up with confidence and giving us a firm handshake is always the best way to kind of start the conversation with us. What else?
Yeah. What else could I have done? Yeah.
And a bit louder.
And a bit louder. Right. There's no reason to mumble to yourself. We are, I would say, very approachable people. In one of the last scenarios, the fake counselor told one of us to go away. No, we won't ever tell you no, that we're not going to answer your question or to go away. So don't be afraid of that. Really, you can ask any sorts of questions, but the best questions will be the one that are a little bit more prepared and you put research and thought into, right? But we'll still answer any questions that you ask.
You could try asking more open-ended questions, just like, I don't know, to get a more full answer.
Do you have an example of a question that would be a good question to ask?
Like an open-ended question. What are you trying to teach the students specifically through this course? Like, what are your goals of it, I suppose, rather than just, is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, the is it good question is definitely something to, not even bring up, because none of us would tell you if we had a bad program, and if we did have a bad program in our university, it simply wouldn't exist. So the goal is more about bringing to the table what interests you, and using our expertise on the school itself to kind of find ways where your interests connect with what we can offer you as a student. So
when you're thinking of your questions, think about what you want to get out of what you're asking. So asking, is it good? What are you going to get? Of course, everyone's going to tell you it's good. So it's very generic. It's very surface level. So, like, what's your name?
Mitchell.
Like Mitchell said, asking open-ended questions. Internship opportunities. What am I going to get out of this course? What are the long-term career goals of this? Or what can I do post-grad with this? Something like that, where you're going to get the most information you can, like you said, out of one question.
Anyone else have any tips, something that I could have done better as a student? I think yeah.
A handshake.
A handshake, yeah. Would you like to demonstrate proper handshake with one of the counselors over here?
Sure.
You already know what I do with that handshake. I am Jenna. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Good.
Very solid.
What was good about that handshake?
Firm.
Firm. Not too long, right? Not limp, fish, right? Like it's gonna slide away. And you made eye contact, which is great. And you introduced yourself. Good. Now we're gonna flip it around a little bit. And I am Taylor Miller, admission counselor representing Albright College. And you're a student.
Hello, my name is David Strossen. I come from Merck's Catholic, and I'd like to know what's good about your program, and where would I end up being in a few years after I've taken your courses.
Great introduction. Maybe work on the questions a little bit. But you made eye contact, you shook my hand, you look pleasant, right? And I know where he's coming from, which is great. So thank you very much. Give me a hand.
How could you have asked better? The intro was good. How could he have asked, gotten more out of the next level?
Right. Having a program in mind, if you're asking me about a program, or else I'll start listing all of our programs, and you don't want to hear that, and I don't want to say all of that with all of the majors we have. So having a specific program in mind, and instead of simply asking what's good about it, well, you could rephrase that in a way, what are the highlights of your business program, or what are the highlights of something else, or as you were talking about earlier, maybe ask about internships, career outcomes.
And ask your specific question, because you've got very specific major and career goals in mind.
Yes.
Ask the question in more detail about what you want of Taylor.
Okay.
Go ahead. Just ask it from there. You don't have to go.
Okay. I'd like to know what your culinary program is like.
We do not have a culinary program, sir.
Okay.
However, we could recommend Johnson Wells.
Yeah.
Your own alma mater. There you go. Yes. So, like we said, we're not going to ever tell you, we don't have that program, you should probably move on. I think most of us have been in it long enough, we can kind of recommend some options for you, or say, you know what, we sure don't, but so-and-so and so-and-so does.
how could you also, because we had a discussion, how could you also expand that question out to not just do culinary? What are some bigger picture things you and I have talked about?
Hospitality management.
Right.
So that's one that's key for internships as well, because you want to get, obviously experience outside of the classroom as well.
What are some examples of not so good questions? So let's reverse this and think about questions that maybe we should stay clear from, both academically and also socially. So of course you want to make sure that you can succeed there, that they have the programs that you like, but you also want to make sure that you're going to have a great 4 years. It's going to be fun, you're going to feel safe, and all the other things that you're thinking about. What are some questions that you probably shouldn't ask? Yeah.
Is this a good party school?
Okay.
Bingo.
How can we flip that? All right. So how can we flip asking if it's a party school without being like, is it a party school?
Parties every weekend. Yeah. I mean, if that's something, that you want to know more about, you have to think about, not necessarily about the parties, but we get tons of stuff. What are the girls like? What are the guys like? What's this? That sort of thing. Find a way you can ask it where it doesn't seem so dumb. Yeah, I was going to say, non-delving.
How would you ask the question then to find out about social life?
You can say, like, do you have Greek life here, or any specific programs that college has?
Yeah, we definitely can answer specific questions like that. We can say, yes, we have it, or no, we don't, or here's some alternatives. But we're talking about more open-ended questions. You can ask, what do you do on the week? What do students do on the weekends? What opportunities are there for them in terms of clubs and other activities or intramurals? Do you have any intramural sports?
That's a great question that a lot of students ask for. I feel like they're prepared. Like, can you tell me what a typical weekend would be like for a student at your school? Because that kind of just makes it generic, and not everybody's the same, obviously. We understand that. There is a social aspect too to college. It's not just academic, so we want to highlight that as well. Of intramural programs, clubs, organizations, things to do in the surrounding cities. So that's also an opportunity for us to talk about our college.
Do a lot of people go home on the weekends? Is it a big commuter school or suitcase school? If you're going to Florida Southern, you want to make sure that everyone's not leaving on the weekends because it's harder for you to fly home. So those are important questions, especially if you go a distance. Even if you don't go a distance, I went a half hour away. I wanted to make sure that I felt like it was farther away. So that was a big question for me.
And in preparing your questions, I'm sure you all have done this, but think about really what is important to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be what's important to your friend or to your parents. You want to figure out where do I want to be? Is it a location that's really important? Size that's really important? Is my major the utmost importance to me? Think about your factors so that you can kind of prepare questions that are going to be impactful to you. So that when you leave, you feel like, okay, good, I have a better idea of which colleges on this list are really going to meet my needs. Because this is obviously a great opportunity. You have the list. There's a ton of schools, like we were talking about earlier, that you're not going to know about. I mean, we've all been this a long time. There's colleges on that list that I don't know about. So we don't expect you to know every single thing about every institution, but this is an opportunity for you to learn more about schools that you don't know about as well, and then even learn more about the schools that you aren't already interested in. But when you're thinking about your questions, some students come up with a list of 20 questions and they just start writing them all the answers down, but really start to soak it in and to say what we're saying to you, try to take away from it something interesting.
Going off of that, you don't necessarily, like she said, know everything about every school on that list, but you do know about yourself, that sounds really corny, but you do know things that you like, that you dislike, things that you may want to study, that you don't want to study. You want to be in the city, you don't want to be in the city, you want to go far away, you don't. Those are things you already know about, so use that when you're trying to converse with us tomorrow at the college fair. Don't necessarily think so much about what you should be asking. Think about what's important to you and embrace that.
Raise your hand if you definitely know what you want to study in college. You have a major picked out.